Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, my friends. Welcome. Margaret here at SpartanTrading.com. Welcome to those of you who are joining us through our live YouTube stream. This is what we do Monday through Friday. You know the drill. There's so many complex situations going on right now, and a lot of it has to not so much deal with domestic, but overseas. And I continue to pound, and I know broken record, whatever, in terms of overseas sovereign selling, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, as headwinds, and they continue to be headwinds. We continue to see this sort of narrative going through, like yesterday. Whether these are wealth funds or whether they're sovereign entities, I don't know. More than likely, it's a little bit of both going on right now. And I continue to reiterate, do not underestimate the amount of U.S. stock ownership overseas. And if countries need it, sovereign wealth funds, whatever, are starting to trim back the exposure that they've had for, pretty much, almost 20 years. I mean, a lot of these started buying in 2006. It creates these sort of influxes one way or the other. Irregardless, I have been adamant. I continue to be adamant. Rates are going higher. They have gone higher since I've made that statement. They will continue to go higher simply because they've gotten it wrong in terms of, as far as I'm concerned, on the macroeconomic side, domestically. Okay. Plus, you have this little, there's so many. I'll be honest with you, I'm not as much concerned about, obviously what's going on in the Red Sea is a big deal, and that's because supply chain disruption, et cetera, and that is expensive. And that does add to cost of goods and services, no matter how you slice and dice it, timing, this and that. It's just a really complex. Now we've got a situation as set up as follows, that we've got earnings season coming, right? And the reality is, and continues to be, everything is priced to perfection. But we're talking wow type stuff. We'll see how that plays out. If I were someone, as a CEO or whatever, if you think you're going to be a little bit disappointing, you better pre-announce or say something, because we're in a situation where you could be talking about, back to that 10-15% decline due to, which is really, right? So what do we got? Overnight, what happened? Really, I don't know why there's any surprises here, but growth. This is what they're saying. This is what they're saying in China, but we know better than that, don't we? Right? Retail sales is what they're saying. Industrial capacity utilization 70.9. Irregardless, if your economy is that strong, you certainly aren't allowing interest rates to go down the way they are, right? Unemployment is staggering and continues to be staggering. Right? I continuously also look overseas as a bellwether for what's going on. I really think that 3% target point in terms of inflation is nirvana, and yet here we are again talking about 2%. Waller is the third most hawkish. If you look in terms of the cheat sheet that I show you, okay, he's the third most hawkish. Okay, so we'll see how it plays out. Where is that? It's somewhere here. Anyways, it gives us the reality. Here's the Dove Hawk chart. Sorry, fourth. All right. Once again, don't forget the 2024 voting members. Okay. So Logan Kashkari is not there. He's not voting this year, but we got Bowman and Waller voting. Ta-da! So he's the second most hawkish of the group. Mester, and there we go. None of this should be surprising. Overseas, UK inflation a little bit higher than expected across the board. PPI higher than expected. Well, 0 for -1. Anyways, input PPI -1.2, 2.8. I think we once again have seen probably as good as we are going to see okay, in terms of inflationary numbers, but that's, what do I know? Well, okay. I continue to raise cash simply because I've had technical stops. So the stuff that I was buying in October, basically I had trimmed some, and then basically if you break my 10 EMA on the weekly, you're out. If I'm gonna buy off of it, I'm gonna sell off of it. So a lot of things, and I'm actually up to, and one of my portfolios 20% cash, which was kind of crazy town, right? This is what it looked like in July, August, September. I'm not saying that's where we're going, but I'm just saying that's where I'm at. That doesn't mean I'm not going to put capital to work, but that's just where I'm at. Core inflation rate, this is the final, so no surprises there, right? Mortgage, the securities rate, 6.75, applications higher, yada, yada, yada. And then we see we have retail sales coming out, right? I still think it's a function of, this is old school stuff, guys, okay? So like industrial revolution, whatever, how you want to look at the reality is, there's them that has and them that don't have. No matter how you slice and dice it, you still need raw materials, okay? And we're seeing this deglobalization construct with raw materials. That's problematic. And then you couple on, right? Rhetoric, trade war, whatever you want to call it, between US and China. It's a tough nut. It really is a really tough nut. I mean, we have a puking of Fed heads talking. They got to get it out before they can't, right? Before the silent period comes, right? All right, here we are. Schwab, I don't know if it was top, bottom, whatever, but seriously. And then we have Alcoa Discover, and then we have Taiwan Semi. So next week is the one that really gets going. We're still in the financials. I'm pretty much done with that group right now, to be honest with you, except for foods. I really kind of don't do anything more than that. And as you can see here, beat top but miss bottom, seriously. What can I tell you? What can I tell you? Bad news, good price action's holding up fine. I mean, I don't know. Let's see if it bounces. News, what do we got? China fourth quarter global estimate, yeah, inflation rate unexpectedly accelerates U.S. mortgage applications, yeah, these are the headlines, 10-year bond yield at over 1 month high, population falls for second year. Yeah, that's what happens when you tell people not to have families, and now you want them to have families. Whatever, we're below 71, that's notable. I still think we're getting close to the bottom end of the range. I had my hedges, I'm just sitting and watching. Proposed changes to big banks' overdraft fees. Yeah, this is pretty onerous shit what they do. Yeah, Disney criticizes Nelson Peltz as it rejects, whatever. Disney did really well on the Emmys, right? I mean, they're not doing well in the box office, but they're knocking it out of the park in terms of content and stuff like that. Right? Goldman Sachs sixth landing at the end of tumultuous year, God bless. Gen Zers are coming for baby boomers' houses now. All right, this is what we got. I'm just repeating the news as we see it. Taiwan, the new leader says he'll stick to the status quo, but his past makes the US nervous. Okay, so this is kind of like, this is the Taiwanese people saying, look, we don't want to look over our shoulders constantly. China's not, Harvard is trying to smooth things over with Silicon Valley. So it's one Gaza enters the most peerless phase. Look, this is horrible no matter how you slice and dice it. And this is one of the problems with social media in terms of the positive and negative stuff. Okay. I am involved in terms of, donations more for the Gazan children. Okay. There's no innocence here in terms of on the adult side, but the reality is this is very disruptive. And I am in some Israeli stocks, and I'm really rethinking that. I know the economy is doing very poorly. So, from an investment point of view, I don't know, it's kind of in the penalty box in terms of Israel right now, just so you know, in terms of exposure to Israel. And I've been slowly getting out of stuff as a result of that. I do know people who are living in Israel. It's really just not, it's so complex and it's very difficult. But from an investment point of view, I kind of have it in the penalty box right now. Let's see what we got. Okay, from a cyclical point of view, this is kind of fascinating. All right, so we continue to have to talk about confirmation, right? As well as left-right translations and stuff like that. All right, so this is in terms of the NASDAQ on the cycle, it has to basically above the December 28th will confirm a daily cyclic low. If it does not happen, we have the potential for left translation, which is incredibly bearish, right? And we have to be aware of that. Right? I have money to put to work, but I was talking to twins. I said, I'm kind of not enamored with a lot, but I mean something like a Palo Alto, Adobe, something like that that's holding. But I'm ready to kick the can real fast if it breaks below, and I'll sit and wait and bide my time. I mean, I really think as a result of that, and I am hedged. There's no question about that. This is the most hedging I've had on, and I have as a disclaimer, this is the most hedges I've had on since we had July, August narrative where I said the red flags were just too much. And we really have to get to earnings cycle. And the rationale is pretty straightforward. This is strong. When you're not strong, and this is where you get weak, you have to basically, does it flip? I don't know. One has to be concerned. Right? There's no question about that. Another thing, there was the Dow transports. Looking at that, I mean, it's literally on the precipice of rolling over. And don't forget the Dow transports. I do espouse the Dow theory. It did break the 10 EMA. That's another red flag. So I've got these red flags accumulating. Okay, so it was a leader in October, interestingly enough, and that's something that we have to be aware of, that it did break the 10 EMA on the weekly, and we're heading towards reversion to the mean, which is 15,000. The reversion to the mean is 15,133, and then the 50 EMA on the weekly. So these are all these red flags, and I'm just saying, hey, my red flags are adding up, and when that happens, well, you know the drill. Okay, we do have a cycle low coming in on Tesla on the 16th. Okay, we'll see how that plays out. Now, the interesting thing about that is that it actually can left translate and continue to go down. Right? It needs confirmation as well. So all of these things. What's going on? The dollar's bouncing. I mean, it's that simple. You've got interest rates that are going higher within a range. I'm not saying the sky is falling. All I'm saying is it was unsustainable, unrealistic. 7-8 rate cuts in 2024. Seriously. Okay. I think we'll be lucky if we get 3. And I've said that for multiple months. And I said that and that's why I had hedges on. And I'd rather do, with those hedges, I'd rather do, higher yield stuff that I think have like some close-end funds I'm looking at as well, that do give me higher interest rate yields. I'm talking double-digit stuff. Okay, I just don't think right now, to be honest with you, 3-4% cuts it. But there comes a point in time where, it becomes attractive and we have to look at that. And as you can see here, the dollar has a cycle low. All right, Tommy Boy. Well, when Tommy Boy thinks possible minor new high, but 7% drawdown, Tommy, dude, you're killing me here. All right, well, if he's saying 7% drawdown, the Hawks are coming out. The Bears are going to be coming out. See? And one of the biggest bear, right, for last year's bullish now. I'm not saying we're not going higher, but like I say, there's the real meat to the rally in the market really doesn't start for another couple months. Okay, and that's basically March to April, May from a seasonality point of view, especially in an election cycle. Now, interestingly enough, believe it or not, Apple is going to start entering strong seasonality. So I'm actually looking at that. I haven't done anything yet, but I am watching it, FYI. Okay, so we'll see. 1994, Milky Way. Isn't that beautiful? I don't know. Altcoins are ready to fly. Robert, where are you, dude? Altcoins, there you go. He does this shit. I don't know. I don't know what to tell you. Anyways, I did buy a little bit of MSTO, okay? Basically because of where it is in the cycle. It's a reversion to the mean. I mean, I'm not talking a lot, but just a little bit, 0.25%, right? And it basically reversion to the mean is 458. And basically the low we had yesterday was 467. So in my world, you know, a little bit of a nibble. Okay. I want to buy, look, it's commodity. I want to buy what nobody wants to buy. You know the drill, right? Walmart powers is not new news, but it's interesting, right? Currency markets will become more volatile. We know this. Federal Reserve starts. You have Brexit erased 140 billion pounds from the UK economy, said Per Bloomberg. Okay. And it was all based on fear mongering in terms of, well, anyways. I'm just, you know, saying it as it is. Right? I actually think that we'll see. This is the test of the EU. You know, those that have and whether they want to continue to stay in it, sort of stuff. We'll see. I know that's kind of dramatic to say, but you know, Germany, right? So vacancies in American areas, right? Detroit #1, Houston #2, San Fran, Seattle, Austin, Charlotte, Philadelphia, Miami, Tampa, Boston. Okay, so for me, gentrification, just convert these offices and basically that we have a housing shortage. Hello, just convert them into housing. It's literally that simple. And that's what's going to happen, I think. I'm just saying. But you know me, I say a lot of stuff. So anyways, change over year and spread 210, you know. Cheddar flows, cost of not investing. So, okay, this is the reality. And we know this to be the reality. The reality is, yeah, you got to weather the storms, dollar cost averaging, savings versus S&P. What, you know, 138 versus 259 since 2014. God bless. Pesos. Okay. So anyways, we get the jump, right? Bulk of capital gains of the super rich are never realized and never taxed. Okay, well, that's because they don't, you can't tax stuff that hasn't been sold. Okay, it's kind of funny. Okay, but I have to say, well, you know what I'm going to say. Okay, I'm just saying, a lot of this could wipe out. I know, whatever. Legacy, yeah. I'm a little bit, okay. I'm a little bit of a socialist. I'm just saying from time to time, this would take care of a lot of things. Look, if Warren Buffett, okay, pays very little in taxes, okay, hang your head on shame. Some of these people, I understand, well, it's allowed. Okay, but come on. Seriously, from a moral and ethical point of view, come on. This is the problem I have with the PPE, and I say this all the time. People who say espouse themselves to be well and ethical and really stand up citizens. I said, well, why did you game the system, and why did you basically? Because I'll tell you right now, there's no oversight. Small business is a you know what. Okay, all this was well because they let me. Okay, I understand this. The Rockefellers and stuff like that. Well, they let me. I don't know. I'm just talking out loud. All right, so geopolitical flashpoints is Hamas, Houthi. This Houthi stuff is important simply because of the cost, supply chain disruptions. This is a big deal, and now they're near the wells, and they're on our list now. Whatever. All right, this is reality, friends. Okay, this is what it looks like now. Okay, 5 years, 10 years down the road, guess what? BRICS. No matter what you think, okay, China, this is going to be India, China's going to go down, India's going to go up, and they're going to, new members, right? This is going to keep building and building and building and building and building and building. Okay, this is deglobalization. This is meaningful. It's And I know people are gonna say, I don't give a, you know what, we're the best, yada, yada, yada. But when you have cheap labor, Asia Pacific Rim, South America, Africa, all starting to do this and say, well, we're the best there is and stuff like that. Who gives a shit? Okay. It eventually overtakes. Okay. I'm just saying, it's not today, not tomorrow, not 5 years, but 10, 15, 20 years from now, this landscape will be different. And you can be as high and mighty as you want. If you do not understand what is going on, okay, like you will see sovereign selling, you will see wealth funds. Guess what all these wealth funds are, guys? The vast majority, if you take out Norway, guess where it's at? Middle East, Asia Pacific Rim. Okay, just saying. This is what I do. This is why they pay me the big bucks to be here. No takers carry. I do this because I love to talk to you guys about my thoughts, because I've been doing this for over 40 years now. God, I hate to say this. It's gonna be 50 soon. Anyways, I'm getting old. Not 50. I'm far away from 50, but 40. No tankers, right? Isn't that funny how that happens, right? Oil major shell has suspended shipments, whatever. Okay. Supply chain disruption. Expected global debt to reach 310 trillion by the end of 2023. Well, okay. TNX, TLT. Actually, we're starting to hit levels on TLT that look interesting to me, at least for short-term bounce. We'll go up that. Let's see. Nope. Let's see what the peeps are saying here. I don't want to do that. All right, what do we got? Airline turbulence, Charles Schwab, Nutanix, upgrades, tectonic shift in software is coming. Okay, cool beans. Spirit Airlines may look for another buyer. Hedge fund still piling into the NASDAQ. Okay. What do we got? Yesterday. NVIDIA, SPY. This is the second week, third week that this has been going on, tens of millions of dollars. Okay, and just saying. QQQ, some hedgers did come in finally, right? Yeah. And then you can see, right? 1.3 million Rivian. I'm just showing you what it is. All right, let's see what's going on here in terms of some insider stuff. Right? Nothing there, nothing printing there. But you can see here, continuous monk. He's at it again. Well, you know, whenever the stock goes down, it's him selling. This bunker has to be massive. I mean, I'm just saying, you know what? It has to be massive. Just saying. Right? CNM, right? All this reported. Just 7 million, 14 million. Well, he got billions. I guess this is just like spending money for him, right? All right, what do we got? Upgrades. Okay. Maple Beer, Wolf, EXLS, RVLV, Revolve, Burlington Stores. That's kind of interesting from Piper Sandler. Edward, 73% neutral overweight. That's kind of interesting. Mara, here you go. Digital. This is BTIG, but it is a 70% person, so we have to neutral the buy. Okay. Whatever you say. It is at the 10 EMA, so I actually did buy some. Like I say, when things hit my levels, and you know, I just do it, right? I had my technicals. I was very, very fortunate because I got long in single digits and I sold in the, you know, way higher in the upper 20s, right? ADP, interesting. Yeah. And then Roger, thank you as always for what you do in terms of printing that stuff. Once again, this is why I do this every single day. And every single day I say the same thing. I look at June, okay? I say, okay, well, they're getting smarter about this, okay? And you see how they're now saying, oh, well, maybe only 2 cuts are coming, okay? We'll see. And then you can see here, we're getting a little bit more sanity coming in. Last week, 15, now 23. And as you can see, this is starting to move up as well, all right? I don't know. Look, you know, the only way this happens, guys, is that the market's really not doing well. Okay, just the systemic inflation's not bad. It's just what it looks like. And then I continue to show you this stuff. This is the SPY. This is no joke, friends. This is what it looks like January. Then we get a little bounce and then. So basically, like I say, you have to be really, really, really patient with the market in terms of buying, especially with presidential election. Fear and greed model coming down. And when this happens, no matter how you slice and dice it, you know, we get a roll over here, okay? This would be highly unusual if it were, and you can see here from the, you know, peak, right? We had the pullback here, then it bounced again, right? But then you can see the rollover, right? So that would be like that 7% that Tommy Boy's talking about potentially. I don't know, I'm just, you know, what happens when greed retreats? Here's the fear model, and you can see it's coming down from greed, right? All right. This is what it looks like. Okay. All right. First month, right? Second month, right? Third month. Right? This is what the returns look like. And then you have here. Okay. So let's not underestimate the powerful impact of fear and greed. Right? All right. We have a potential setup for a short-term bounce in the market. It is getting extended on the downside. Okay. Don't forget the extensions on the downside are a lot more tradable than the extensions on the upside, right? Seriously, alternative harvest, VIX, semis are still up there, yada, 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 tech, and then we have industrials, healthcare, and then everything, right? And you can see here how all of this can be coming back, energy is oversold, and then you can see here from the high yield down, oversold, right? South Korea, all of these oversold, except Japan. I actually bought, believe it or not, and I know this is kind of a little bit crazy town, but I bought a little bit of, I sold a little bit of Japanese market just for shits and giggles. Just, I don't know. Just, you know, I did. We'll see. I don't know. See how that plays out. You know me, I'm a contrarian type person. I like to buy when nobody wants to buy. This is commodity trading 101. You buy when nobody wants to buy, you sell when nobody wants to sell. It's FIFO, first one in, first one out. It's musical chairs. And thank goodness I was really fortunate on the crypto side that I was in really early. All right, front end, you can see everything coming in. McClellan oscillators now getting to the point where we still have a little bit of frothiness going on in the summation that's notable, right? And here you go here. The reason why I bring this to attention is because of the TLT right here is getting to the level that should bounce. Okay, FYI. So just a saying. And this is reflective of the, you can see here doing 10-day. Look, you know, Spartan drives his bus. Says we're gonna bounce, range bound, whatever, things on, you know. Long-term model, interestingly enough, is a neutral except for the composite trend model, which went long in May, and the long-term trend model, which went long in May, and you can see right here. That's the one that went long. Okay. And you can see obviously this is, you know, like I say, this was supposed to be the strong time and it wasn't. So what could go wrong with that, right? Same thing here. And then here's the Dow. Really, this month is really not a good look, right? And then we have here the NASDAQ, which is supposed to be a good, but and this is why you use it as a potential. So like I say, when things start to bounce, when Spohn starts to see something that looks interesting to him, you know, that's when I'll start to look at it, probably TECL, maybe some hiatus stuff, etc. But I actually took Barron's off because, to be honest with you, they're just, I don't know, I just took them off. All right, what do we got? Yield curve, 2-year, inversion, 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 okay? Now, obviously, okay, if you go into the front end, in the bill side, it's nowhere near, and that's where a lot of people are. But if you're in anything other than, like this is hurting right now, on the inversion side. There's so much, I mean, I just am, I'm in complete and utter awe at the standard deviation moves on the interest rate side. I mean, complete in utter awe. I mean, this is not what I grew up with. I mean, just, but you have to understand when you have a massive portfolio, bond portfolio, your P&L, I mean, day to day, up and down, it's like, I mean, it's just breathtaking, right? Canada, everything's up across the board. UK, obviously, with the with the inflation numbers, right? I've been talking about this. I am in TMV. We've talked about that. Like we'll just have to see, right? All right. So here's the inflation rate. I still think I know I'm crazy. This goes back to 1915, so I'm not really joking here. But this is reversion to the mean. This is the mid when you take out the highs, lows, and all of that. You know, this is what it looks like, and it's just really hard. It's just hard for me, you know, to basically wrap my head around that 2%. Hold on a second. My son has to do his affirmations. I'll just 1 second, please. All right, you want to say hi to my friends? Go say hi. 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 Okay, I'll have a good day, son. No, Tomas. Anyways, so like I say, this is why I keep saying old school stuff. This literally is a sweet spot right here, 3%. Just saying. And everybody wants down here, but that's just not sustainable. That's not realistic. All right, here's GDP. Now we have to talk about this. The reason why I want to talk about this is productivity. Productivity, and this is just at Econ 101. Productivity is so important, okay, as an offset. Okay, now on the other side also, because you know, tax liabilities too, but you can see here, right? This is, you know, PCE trim, you see here going up. And then let's take a look at our recession probability, which is kind of freaking me out a little bit because this is what we're seeing, okay? And this would go with that 3-month 10-year, the 3-month 10-year forecasting May. It's possible. I don't know, mild, shallow. I don't know. We'll see. All right, here we go. 30-year mortgage rates. This is the spread. Remember how I was absolutely positively, apoplectically angry at the spread basically between the 3-year, 30-year mortgage rates and what the 30-year yield was. Okay, as you can see here, it is starting to bounce. Okay, apoplectic. This 75 basis points is a big deal. Okay, if you want to actually sell mortgages, get your head out of your you-know-what and stop gouging the consumer. I mean, don't be so greedy. It's all about greed. You can see here, this is the 5-2. Keep an eye on this, okay? This is something we have to look at, right, on the inversion side. Here's a 10-5. Let's see if this holds or not. Here's my 10-year. Let's see, okay? This is a quarterly 10-year yield, right? Not a good look, right? We literally have a double bottom, triple bottom going on right now. If you did not know what this chart was and I hid it from you, what would you say? I'm just saying that's yields, right? Just say. Okay. Here's a 30-10. A little bit of a top here, something we have to keep an eye on. And then you know me, I love my 3-month 10-year spread. And here we have here that we got to keep an eye on this as well. It's okay. It's still doing fine. Okay. In terms of steepening. But keep an eye on it, right? German rates, like I say, this is perfection. I really, so we have to talk, and the reason why we have to talk is because this is such a massive range. So here's the mid is right here. You can see that right there. So we can actually bounce on the mid all the way up there. Okay. Dollar bouncing, we know that, right? And that's why a lot of these assets are selling off. Chinese new yuan looking like they're going to bounce as well. So keep an eye on that, right? Cryptos. Look, I am so naive in this world. I think it is, something you had to be in. Okay, so this is 90% assets down. That's a big deal. Okay. That's what it looks like, 90%. Everything's down, except cocoa's up, right? Cotton's up, right? I have my headers on, period, exclamation point. That's all I can say. That's all I can do. There is a cycle coming on oil that I'm watching. Okay, a meaningful cycle that I have to. Agricultural side, this is the commodity, this is DBC. It's like, the commodity CRB, like that. I don't like it that much. Natty gas, you want to play, you're going to pay. I mean, I'm pretty much, thankfully we sold when I started to see that massive candle. I mean, seriously, guys, this is just a massive candle. I mean, so I'm just pretty much flat on this spread. All right, so monthly crude, I'm waiting patiently. I don't think we break below this, okay? But we're getting to the point where this is where you buy, right? And here's the gold crude, and nothing's happened there. This is a heavily traded. All right, let's talk. Once again, small cap taking it on the chin, right? You see that, okay? DAX, everything's going down overseas. And then you see the Nifty 50 says it's down 0.8%. Big rollover coming on in terms of overseas markets, right? So notable and something that we have to talk about, right? All right, let's do it. DAX breaking down. Says still inside candle. EFA, double top. IWM EFA coming down, which is actually, we've talked about this, is not a good thing. That means IWM is selling off, right? Let's take a look at the This is what I want to look at. QQQC, QQQ. Okay, all right, here we are. Still doing okay. So what does that mean? Everybody's selling off. So China's selling off faster than we're selling off. Bang. Let's talk. Okay. This is a problem, right? No, I shouldn't say that. This is not a problem. Okay. It just shows us, okay, this is the range. This is the weekly range, right? You can see that relatively speaking, right? Okay. Right. So waiting for Godot. I mean, we're getting close to the mid. So there's really no setup right now, at least in terms of Fang. Okay. It's there. I mean, and we had a double top and we're making a lower high. So look, I mean, that another red flag. So, but let's look at it from a monthly perspective, which I like to do. Not a nice looking candle. Okay. There you go, double top. So reality is, from a technical point of view, right? You can't really go along some of these things, at least for my action plan, unless we get down here or we break out. No, pretty that simple. All right, let's talk about this IGV. This is the tech software sector, okay? It's sitting right now on the 78.6% Fed. This is really important. It is a double top. Obviously, this is a monthly chart, and you can see the range is just kind of crazy right now, right? You can see. I'm going to be watching this really carefully, okay? So, and you can see this on the weekly, because this is an important thing, because this was one of the leaders, right? And you can see here, okay, if we start to break below here, then obviously we're going to get more. And you cannot underestimate the Dow transports either. Okay, how important this is too, right? And you can see here making a lower high, right? If you look at it from a weekly, okay, this is why I'm concerned, is because from a weekly point of view, it is below the 10. Okay, and that is, as everybody knows, that's a big deal for me, right? And last week's low, right, was 15,364, and we are below last week's low. So that's another notable and important situation for me, is because we are below last week's low. Okay, so these are, once again, these are how I get these red flags, and this is how it says, okay, well, I got to start being a little bit more cautious in my approach to this market. Okay, right. So we'll see. These are just red flags. All right, Adobe. Let's take a look at Adobe. I still like Adobe. This is the monthly. My only problem is, and you can see how this is a problem, right?
Already Beth ready to pop on here.
Okay.
Pop up the screen share. We'll get right into it. So if you guys are new to chat, however done so, make sure to click on that Discord link that's emailed to you. You pop in a chat, look something a little bit like this. First area to go to when you guys do pop in. Click on that disclaimer section, give that a read, as well as go to the new to chat information section. Scroll to the very, very top. Top of that section, you get a link to the disclaimer, as well as this bolded, whoops, as well as this bolded risk reward section. Let me just actually scroll to the top here. So new to information, scroll to the very top. You got a link to this disclaimer as well as bolded risk reward section. Super important to understand both in regards to risk reward. We'll support and ratio and trading, so definitely worth checking out there. Continue to scroll down. We have the, like I said, summary of how this chat works, breaks down all the channels work on the left-hand side, so you can probably navigate the chat through the day. Importance you know where to be looking. Continue to scroll down. We have the how to read alerts on the options and equity side, breaking down how to read alerts on both sides. Pretty straightforward in that regard. Below this, options rules that we use every single day, Monday to Thursday, in regards to controlling risk, scaling in, scaling out, trading different price contracts, etc., etc. SPX rules that we use every single day. For the SPX ideas, continue to scroll down. We have any with a small account, less than 10K, breaking down. If you have a smaller account, less than 10K, here's some rules, information, discipline you can put in place. You get better. Wait, how to pick it? Yeah, how to pick ideas from an option actor standpoint. So you can Basically, make sure you're weeding out names that don't make sense for you in your account. And lastly, high conviction small cap trades, post in that area when they do make sense. All right, let's take a look what we got going on today, guys. Pre-market tickers on watch. A couple things that we're looking at. That's the spot by do NTNX save and BFRG. So Tesla gapping down, with the market. So a spot by do NTNX gains as William Blair upgrades them. BFRG gapping, save gapping down in regards to continuation, as well as an analyst downgrade. And then BFRG, Bullfrog AI reports early results from its collaboration with Lieber Institute for Brain Development. And you got a nice little gap up there on that smaller name. Let's take a look at these names from a technical standpoint today. So the first two we're going to be looking at, guys, going to be that Tesla and that Spots. Just look this back up. Get right into it. Yeah, let's take a look at the first two. So Tesla and Spot, guys. Let's rip through these charts. All right, so Tesla pulling back here after its little gap fill yesterday. So it's not extended by any means anymore. Pivot to the downside today, 217.66, unable to hold 212.15, 206.23, able to hold 224.03 to 229.29 upside. Maybe leaning bearish for continuation lower if the pivot point is unable to hold. That is Tesla. Let's take a look at Spot here. Yeah. Pivot to the downside today, 195.32, unable to hold 191.49, 188.30, able to hold 198.50 to 201.48 on the upside. Going to be leaning bearish neutral if this pivot point is unable to hold, looking for continuation lower on the downside. That Spot, that is Tesla. Let's take a screenshot of these two. Let's move on to the next. All right, we got Baidu and NTNX. I'm gonna keep this on the daily just because it's a little bit wider than what I would like to have on the intraday chart. So 96.56 pivot to the downside today, unable to hold 90.91 to the 86.99, able to hold 101.80, 101.67 to 106.40, 106.14 on the upside, going to be leaning bearish for continuation lower at the pivot points, unable to hold NT and X. Let's take a look at this. All right, 52.19 pivot, level holds 54.78 to 56.75. Unable to hold, we look for a pullback into the 49.87 to 47.55 on the downside, going to be leaning bullish, looking for a continuation push higher if the pivot point is able to hold. All right, let's take a look at SAVE and BFRG. They said there. All right, that's good. Okay, so pivot to the downside today, guys, going to be this level right here, 6.6. 662 unable to hold 581, 432 able to hold 785 to 883 on the upside. Save. Going to actually be leaning more on the bullish neutral side. Looking for a little bit of a bounce on a pullback. You know, it's getting to a point where I think it's super duper extended to the downside. So we'll see what happens in that regard. My opinion, of course. Let's take a look at this BFRG. 341 pivot levels able to hold. You have room towards 368, 395, unable to hold 299 to 262 downside. Going to be leaning bullish neutral if that pivot point is able to hold. That is BFRG. That is save. All right, that's SPY. Sorry. Let's take a look at the SPY and FANG here. These are the individual names. All right, let's take a look at the market. So SPY guys pivot. What do we got? So for the downside today, it's 471. Okay, gotcha. We're gonna be within this tight range still, but definitely gonna be on the bottom end of it. So 472.19 pivot to the downside today, unable to hold 471.31, 470.46. Able to hold, we look for pushback towards the 473.09 to 473.99 on the upside. Right now, we're back below short-term EMA support, which I do have a problem with. So right now, I'm going to be leaning bearish unless that pivot point is reclaimed right out the gate. If it's reclaimed right out the gate, I'll be looking for a bounce within that flag range on the market. Otherwise, we have room to unwind. Apple. Also, pay attention to the semiconductors, guys. They were leading yesterday in the market, so definitely important. Okay, Apple. 180, 185 pivot levels unable to hold 180.99, 180.24, able to hold 182.74. That level breaks. Room for continuation towards 183.47 on the upside. Overall, on Apple, going to be leaning bearish, looking for continuation lower if the pivot point is unable to hold. That's Apple. Let's take a look at Amazon. 152.10 pivot, levels unable to hold, 150.69 to 148. 82, able to hold 153.23, 154.48 on the upside, going to be leading on the bearish neutral side today if that pivot point is unable to hold. Take a look at Netflix. The Netflix 45.24 pivot levels able to hold 494.06, 503.60, unable to hold 477.94. If that level breaks, we got room for continuation into the 471.43. Going to be leaning bullish neutral there, looking for a continuation push higher. Like the relative strength in it, uptrend still holding on the hourly. It's a decent looking chart actually. Let's take a look at Meta. Uh, 362.72 pivot, unable to hold 357.76 to 351.64. Able to hold, we look for pushback into the 367.49 through 373.17 down on the upside. Sorry, going to be leading bearish neutral pivot points unable to hold. Meta. Let's take a look at Google. One 141 pivot downside, levels unable to hold 140.62, 139.55. Able to hold, we look for pushback towards the 140, 242 to 143.24 on the upside, getting leading bearish neutral, looking for continuation lower. The pivot point is unable to hold. That's Google. All right, so that's the SPY, that's the FANG, those are the individual names that we're looking at today, guys. Gonna go ahead and pass it over to Selfie to type up that pre-market action plan, and then we'll go for that. Selfie, you ready? She's all yours for now.
Morning, guys. All right, so a little bit of a drawdown this morning. Let me show you something. Now, the oscillator is good at calling lows. We're not there yet, but we're coming into the day minus 54, which is something we have to keep an eye on. Okay, so that's pretty significant. All right, when it gets to like 90 or so, but it happens quickly. So we'll keep an eye on that. Okay, see if it gets to that level, and if it does, you know, you can do what you want, but I'm not going to have shorts when it gets to that level. Okay, what you do is entirely up to you, of course. Technicals have to be receding somewhat. Let's see what we got. Okay, let's start with the SPYs and see how that looks today. You know, still EMA support on the daily, no change really, which is, you know, it feels like we've had a change, but we really haven't. And on the weekly, that looks pretty terrific as well. Okay, so with all this, you know, stuff that we've been seeing, the market is basically, you know, for the last month, 3 weeks, it's kind of sort of flat, right? So that's the S&P. Then we go to the NASDAQ, and that too, pretty similar chart. Okay, holding support, looking good. You know, no reason to get overly bearish here. Russell, that's having a bit more of a problem. Okay, this one you got the 10 through the 17 on the daily, and it's moving towards that 50-day moving average on the daily chart. So we're at like 189. If it were to break that, I would think you know, that would be problematic. We couldn't go lower. Good support at the 185 level on the weekly, so we'll see if that holds. But for now, you know, I think the market point of least resistance at the moment is neutral to slightly bearish. Okay, and if you go to the even though those charts are good, it just feels like people want to reduce risk. And then if you go to the transports, which is the last one, that's probably the worst of the lot. No, it actually is starting to look better than the Russell. It's holding that 50-day. And on the weekly, it's got decent EMA support, especially at the 15,000 level. So that one's kind of neutral as well. Okay, so neutral to slightly neutral on transports, slightly bearish on Russell. The other two look okay, but based on this pull down, I'll probably be neutral. What's keeping me up that oscillator -51 is something I'm going to keep an eye on. So you guys can ask me anytime where it's at. If we do have this, it goes down more than this 30 that we're looking at right now. All right, let's look at the bond market and see what that's telling us. Okay, so bond yields are up a little bit more this morning. So handily above 4% on the 10-year, down from 5% and up from like 3.8 more or less. All right, so let's see. If it went below 4, I think the market would rally. If it continues higher, I think the market, will be under pressure. It's really kind of sort of an interest rate play. The 210 spread is up to 23. It was 16 yesterday, but that's the low end of what we've been seeing. And yields are higher pretty much across the board. 0.1 on the 2-year, same on the 1-year, a little bit less on the long end of the curve. So I think that's putting a little bit of pressure on equities. Then if you go to London, those rates are even higher. Their 2-year is up 0.16, which is a pretty incredible move. So they had some inflation numbers we'll discuss in a minute, but yields in London are higher and the rest of the Eurozone pretty much the same, anywhere between 0.05 and 0.1 across the yield curve. So we're seeing higher yields. So higher yield, what does that mean? Lower exposure to risky assets. And that's what we're seeing. Okay. So that's the bonds. Let's look at commodities. We got oil down another $1.50, actually a little more. And with all the turmoil in the world, I'm kind of sort of surprised that oil is so, weak. Holding that 70-80 trading range, but barely. And we'll see what happens with that. Natural gas is down again. So they had that brief moment in the sun where they took they went from 260 to 330 on natural gas, and now they're back to 277. So right back in the shit house for that thing. Gold down a little bit, silver, copper, same thing, and these agricultural commodities down across the board, but only marginally. Okay. And that gives us currency. So a little bit of turmoil. What do we have? Stronger dollar. Up against North America, up against the yen, up against the Chinese currency, up against the euro and the pound. And that's the story with that. Crypto, strong dollar, weak Bitcoin is what we've been kind of seeing. So Bitcoin's down 1.5%, Ethereum's down 1.5%, and Solana is up 4%. And let's look at the foreign markets. Okay, we got the FTSE down 1.75%. We got the DAX down 1.1%. And let's see, in Asia, some reason CNBC isn't picking up the pricing this morning. We had China down 0.2%. We had China down 2%. We had the Nikkei down 0.4%, and the big loser on the day was Hong Kong, minus 3.7%. Okay, so these Chinese stocks, I continue to pound the table. They are dog shit, and stay the hell out of Dodge. As long as Cheese and top charge, I can't see playing these. You could trade them, and I do, but I think they're garbage. I think that whole capital market there is garbage, and I would stay the hell away. So that's the setup. All right, so we have the banks and Fed. We have the same guy speaking today, Waller. So you know what he's going to say, right? So I don't think that's going to be market moving. China, Russia, we'll discuss in a minute. Crypto, we did. Mr. Market yesterday. We kind of opened down and kind of stayed there all day, right? It wasn't a whole lot of. We had one or two moves up, and at the end of the day, the S&P closed down 17. I think it opened down 25. The worst was down like 32. The best was down like 10. So they didn't get a whole lot of market volatility. I guess you have individual names, but not so much the market. Dow was down 230. NASDAQ was basically flat. And the best group of the semis, they were in fuego. And then you had everything else, okay? Big oil and gas was crappy. Chinese stocks. Materials were crappy, gold and silver was crappy, machinery was crappy, Boeing, etc. So that's what we had yesterday. Okay, so back to today. let's see, who do we have? We had David Rubenstein on. He said something kind of really interesting. First of all, the Fed has a meeting coming up, but he says that's a non-event. He said the real fireworks could happen in March. He doesn't predict what's going to happen, but he says that that'll be the first real decision. But one thing he said that was really interesting was in an election year, the Fed tries to not be political, and that may have some effect on them lowering rates. So they may not be as they may not accelerate rate cuts like they might want to if the economy falters. So he said you got to be careful with that, and I think that's a pretty interesting point from a really smart guy. Interestingly enough, China population declined for the second straight year. Okay, this is, like Japan had that whole like 30, like they broke their record for the high, like it was a 30-year, took 30 years to reach the old highs. When you have declining populations, that really does have an effect on your stock market. Okay, and this is very problematic for China. And they had all those years where, that whole one child story that they went through. I think it was at the end of Mao Zedong's reign. So populations are declining there. And I think that's another, knife in the heart for these Chinese equity market. And, I don't think these stocks are bad stocks. I just think, they're not capitalistic, and this is the way they roll. We've seen it a million times. Okay. So they can bullshit all day long that stocks are going up, but at the end of the day, they don't give a shit. Okay. And personally, I think we should ban Chinese stocks from our market. That's my personal opinion, but you guys are free to think differently. I don't know why we give them money. And we lose our ass on it. That's besides the point. Okay, so UK inflation came in this morning, a little higher than expectations. Their CPI was 4.1 versus 3.9. So that's not helping. Forecast was for 3.8, so a little bit higher. Core inflation was 5.1 versus I think they're expecting 4.9. Service inflation is running at 6.3%. So the inflation problem is not with there yet. But it's looking in the rearview mirror, and we'll see what's what. Okay. Biden administration is going after these bank overdraft charges from the banks have collected 280 billion in overdraft charges since 2000. The banks call it services. The Biden administration calls it exploitation. Okay, so we're in an election year, guys, and these guys are going to be throwing shit at the wall, trying to get votes. And I think this is just another one of those kind of situations. I would imagine if it wasn't an election year, they wouldn't give a shit, but who knows? Mortgage demand increases 10% on lower rates. China fourth quarter GDP came in 5.2% versus 5.3% expected. And I would say with this population scenario and what's going on, I would say they continue to disappoint over there. Iran launched a couple of missile attacks last night, one in Pakistan, Iraq, and where else? Syria. They called it Israeli spy bases. Pakistan is pissed off because a couple of kids got killed, and they said we reserve the right to respond, et cetera, et cetera. But what it really tells you is that this conflict is spreading. Okay, so initially it was just Israel and Hamas, Gaza, and now it's the Hezbollah, Lebanon area is getting more heated up. You got the Red Sea situation, you got bombings in Iraq and Syria, et cetera, et cetera. So we'll see what happens there. P. Diddy and Diageo are parting ways. P. Diddy claiming racism. Okay, what else is going on? They didn't promote his brand. Okay, Jamie Dimon was on this morning. This 34 trillion in US debt will come home to roost. He doesn't know when. He's he spoke on Bitcoin for the last time. He does like some of the coins that actually do something, like the blockchain and processing and stuff like that, but he thinks Bitcoin is basically a fraud. I have no opinion on that. I don't trade it really, and I don't own it. Retail sales came in 0.6 versus 0.4, ex autos 0.4 versus 0.2. So the US consumer continues to spend pretty impressively. Import prices were, yeah, this stuff doesn't really mean so much, okay? Minus 0.9 for export versus plus. It's a bunch of bullshit. I'm not gonna even go over it. S&P Global is saying that companies not meeting their debt requirements went up 80%, and it's the highest level in 7 years. Okay, so that is interesting. So these bankruptcy kind of, guys who troll for value in the bond market, they're going to be busy. Jamie Dimon also spoke on the election, how we need to be respectful of each other's opinions, and I think that is very true. Whether you like Trump or Biden or someone in between, everybody's entitled. DeSantis and Haley had a town hall in New Hampshire, but the truth is, unless one of these two guys leaves, they're not going to be able to catch Trump. If one leaves, maybe they have an outside shot, but if there's three of them, Trump's got his core guys, and the other two are fighting it out. So the longer they all stay in the race, the less likely they have to. The more likely it is that Trump, gets the nomination. JetBlue save deal was blocked. Okay, so a win for the administration there. And let's see, Trump was making fun of Nikki Haley. Her real name is Namrata. I don't know, some Indian name. Like, who gives a shit? But that's typical Trump bullshit. Anyway, I mean, listen, we elected a guy named Barack Obama. We could elect a person named Nimrod, right? Who cares? Anyway, individual names. PRGS was good. PI was good. They raised their revenue guidance. NNBR and EOLS. A couple of other names, none of which we really trade. Snap was pushed by Piper. Cart got an upgrade by someone or other. I can tell you who it is. It doesn't really matter, but I'll tell you anyway. Was it Callan maybe? Wolf, sorry. SBGI had positive, is up positive on litigation. There's not a whole lot of positive calls this morning. SBGI settled some litigation. It's up on that. On the short side, we had some names. IBKR had earnings. Schwab continues to be in the shit house. Down another 3 today. PLD, CFO of PLD left. Man U is kind of soft. BGFV, Fulton, PLXS, and PNFB. Okay, Tesla's lowering prices on Model Y in Germany. Stocks down there. Ford and Morgan Stanley were both downgraded. Ford at UBS, Morgan Stanley at JP Morgan. DH, the CEO, stepped down. Stocks getting whacked on that. ALEC had an offering. So did INTR. MSDL, which is Morgan Stanley Direct Lending, is doing an IPO. This SCDG got a hard downgrade from Barclays to sell, and they took the target from 74 to 50. So that's the big negative call on the day. Also, a lot of these shit names, these ones they yank around all day. So we had what, LEAS or LAES the other day. They did a secondary right afterwards. We had Fun, PHUN, and DATS yesterday, and Mark. They're all doing offerings today. So what's the point? The point is, at the end of the day, reduce or get out until that kind of nonsense stops, I think. That's my opinion. They're telling you, they're sitting there waiting to do secondaries on these things. SCDG was the downgrade. Morgan Stanley, I told you. Any upgrades worth a damn? Not really. Not really. Cat continued to not like it. UBS. Dash had a decent upgrade. At a Mizuho, they like that one. They also like Google. But it feels like the market, maybe it'll lift. Oh, is that Boeing rallying? Holy shit. Anyway, let's see what happens. Okay. We're getting close to over, I'm watching that. For me, it's the main thing is watching that oversold oscillator. I'm watching that real close. All right. And that's it. Spartan, it's all yours.
All right, thanks, South Beach guys. Morning, what's up? What's going on? So, if you guys are new to chat and haven't done so, make sure to click on that Discord link that's emailed to you. Pop in the chat, looks a little bit like this. First area to go to when you guys do come in, click on that disclaimer section, give that a read, as well as go to the new to chat information section, scroll to the very, very top. Top of that section, you got a link to the disclaimer as well as this bolded risk reward section. Super important to understand both in regards to risk reward, guys. Most important ratio in trading, so definitely worth checking out in that regard. Continue to scroll down. We have the summary file of this chat works, breaks all these channels work on the left-hand side, so you can properly navigate the chat throughout the day. Importance you know where to be looking. Below this, options rules, sorry, how to read alerts on the options and equity side, breaking down how to read alerts on both sides. Pretty straightforward in that regard. Continue to scroll down. We have the options rules that we use Monday to Thursday in regards to controlling risk, scaling in, scaling out, trading different price contracts, etc., etc. Continue to scroll down. SPX rules that we use every single day. Below this, we have any small account less than 10K, breaking down. If you have a smaller account less than 10K, here's some rules, information, discipline you can put in place so you can better manage your account. How to pick ideas from an options or equity perspective below that. And lastly, high conviction small account trades posted in that area when they do make sense. All right, let's take a look at what we got going on today, guys. Pre-market tickers on watch. What was that? Okay, so pre-market tickers on watch. What do we got going on today, guys? A couple different things. Tesla spot, Baidu, NTNX, Save, and BFRG. So Tesla gapping down a continuation of the market with SEMA spot and Baidu, NTNX. Nutanix gains as William Blair upgrades tectonic shift and software is coming. Gapping up on that. Save Spirit Airlines stock continues to fall and continuation from last day. And then BFRG AI reports early results from its collaboration with its Lieber Institute for Brain Development. Nice little gap up on that. Let's take a look at these names from a technical standpoint intraday. So first two we're looking at today, guys, gonna be that Tesla, gonna be that spot. Let's have a look through these. All right, so Tesla, guys, pivot up to the downside today. 217.86, unable to hold 212.15, 206.23, able to hold 224.03, 229. 29, the upside going to be leaning bearish, look for continuation lower if the pivot point's unable to hold there. Spot pivot 195.32, levels unable to hold. We have room for continuation lower to the 191.49 to 188.30, able to hold 198.850 to 208.48 on the upside. Going to be leaning bearish, you drop that pivot point, it's unable to hold. Let's take a look at Baidu, let's take a look at NTNX. Baidu pivot to the downside today, guys. Let's take a look at that daily. 96.56. Unable to hold. Room towards 90, 91 to 86.99. Able to hold 101.67 to 106.14 on the upside. Going to be leaning bearish neutral there if that pivot point's unable to hold as well. NTNX pivot upside today. And let me go to the daily on this one too. 52.19 level holds 54.78, 56.75. Unable to hold 49.87 to 47.55 downside, leaning bullish neutral there. Let's take a look at Save. Let's take a look at BFRG. Save 662 pivot, unable to hold 581, 432, able to hold 785 to 883 on the upside. Going to be leaning bullish neutral actually today if that pivot point's able to hold. BFRG 341 pivot, level holds 368, 395, unable to hold 299 to 262 downside, meaning bullish neutral there. Let's take a look at SPY and Bang. Uh, 42.19 pivot, unable to hold. I'm going to type this up actually. SPX. SPY. So 472. 19 pivots to the downside today, in my opinion. This level is unable to hold. Room lower into the 470, 131 support breaks. We see the 470, 46 tested. Pivot holds, room higher into the 473.09 resistance breaks. We see the 473.99 tested, meaning bearish, neutral at the moment, unless pivots reclaim. Only at that point would I be bullish. Needs to get back above that pivot hold. That's a SPY. Let's take a look at the rest of the thing here. So Apple, guys, pivot to the downside today, 180, 185. Those levels unable to hold. We got room for continuation, 180.98. That level breaks. Room lower to 180.24. Able to hold. We look for a pushback towards 182.74, 183.47 on the upside. Again, it'll be leaning bullish, neutral, unless that pivot point is able to hold. That's that. Let's take a look at Amazon. Pivot to the downside today, 152.10. Levels unable to hold, 150.69 to 148.82. Able to hold, we look for a pushback towards 153.23 to 154.48 on the upside. Going to be leaning on the bullish neutral side today if that pivot point is able to hold. Sorry, leaning bearish neutral if the pivot's unable to hold, I should say. Now let's take a look at Netflix here. So Netflix pivot to the upside today, 485.24 level holds, 494.06 for 503.60. Unable to hold 477.94 to 471.43. Leaning bullish neutral there. Let's take a look at Meta. Pivot to the downside today, 362.72. Unable to hold 357.76, 351.64. Able to hold 367.49 to 373.17 on the upside. Leaning on the bullish neutral side there. Let's take a look at Google. Pivot to the downside today, 141.41. Levels able to hold 142.42. Level is unable to hold 140.62 to the 139.55. Leaning bearish neutral if pivot's unable to hold there as well. Let's take a look at the VIX QZIWM. So VIX pivot on the upside, 1484. Levels able to hold. Room towards 1529 to 1370. Unable to hold 1411, 1359. Not leaning any particular direction there, but using it for direction on the market. Pivot on QQQs today is going to be 407.59 to the downside. Unable to hold 403.17. Able to hold 412.62. Going to be leaning on the bearish side unless pivots reclaim there. And then SPX, 47.47 I should say. Level holds 48.01 to 48.51. Unable to hold 47.02, 46.46 on the downside below that. Leaning on the bearish side unless that pivot's able to hold. So that's a SPY. That's the thing. Those are the individual names that we're looking at today, my friends. We'll see what happens. Interesting tape that we're in. Market obviously just sitting on that pivot point, and if it's able to be planned early on this morning, I would be looking for a super important, and we'll go from there. So anyways, guys, thanks for popping into the YouTube stream. We do this every single Wednesday, sorry. And if you guys want to pop in for the entire day of streaming, you can certainly do so. Go to